Welcome to Common Hood. It's another sunny day in sunny Florida, and it's getting hot, as Nelly would say out here. It's a little hotter than it normally be.
Yes. Global warming is real.
Well, I got my real brother Claude Blunt with me today, a part of the Conscious Corner. I can't wait to get the Conscious Corner back together. But in the meantime, we're going to run it today, and we're going to have a small little talk about what we think is leadership crisis. And leadership crisis relating to the African Americans, or is it the Democratic Party, or whatever it is. But let's just focus on what we look like right now.
Right.
Because there's so much talk about Trump is taking us back. Trump is taking us back. Trump is taking us back. So we got the churches who were very strong with civil rights back then. And now they say churches are not in use. People feel that temperature, that it's not the same. Then you have the Urban League and the NAACP. That was also a part of it. But during the civil rights, I wasn't thought about because I wasn't born. But you can share some wisdom because you experienced. So I want you to kind of briefly take us and share the energy of today for as Black people and the energy of the civil rights movement that you experience, and hit from education, hit from our drive. Just compare some glaring differences that you see compared to what you was exposed to in civil rights. And if you have anything to describe of an experience of dealing with NAACP or leadership crisis, whether it's good or bad, I want you to do that. I know this book right here is one of your influences, and you always bring one. So I said, I'm going to bring my favorite book. This is PowerNomics that I read by Dr. Claude Anderson. And Dr. Claude Anderson said that if Black people don't get off their ass real soon, and we're in 2026, he's saying 2005 is over. So when I see
2005,
he said
Well.
he said in 2005, so we're in 2026. Now I don't know what the measurement has been since to see if that statement is true.
21 years later, that's an adult lifetime.
21 years later, right?
That's adult
So
life.
we in the 21 years later, and Trump get in office, and they say, oh, they taking us back. Jim Crow is coming back. Racism is coming back. And it's like, well, we still treading for some leadership, but we don't have the Martin Luther Kings, and we don't have a Malcolm X. I'm a Malcolm X dude, if I had to pick one. I love Malcolm as well. I mean, Martin Luther King, but if I had the vibe, I probably wear a bow tie and chill with Malcolm and the crew.
Well, how far did we really come forward is the question. If we can slip back like we are now, will we ever really forward? The NAACP, you brought them up, was formed in the early 1900s by Blacks and Jews together. But the two groups made different priorities. The Jews emphasized education and economics. And the Black folks, or Negroes they would call them, emphasized education and civil rights. Well, it turns out the Jews were right, because in a monetized, quote unquote, democracy, you have to have economic power to maintain whatever rights you gain. So that was the right choice. And there's a thing called organizational inertia. That's when an organization is around so long and or gets so big that it gets totally consumed with its own preservation. We're just continuing the organization. And my parents bought me a lifetime membership in NAACP. And when I got older, they told me, oh, that was a childhood gift. You got to do your annual fees. So I was doing that for a while until I had experiences with NAACP that were a problem for me. And let me tell you this little story. Around 1999 or 2000, I went to the national NAACP conference with the person who was then the local leader of the Alachua County branch. That was Mike Bowie, who was a powerful leader. And there was great leaders before him, the Browns, and great leaders before them, the Joseph Judge, but I wasn't in Gainesville when Judge was in power. But we went to the national convention, Mike, myself, and another prominent local organizer. And I had talked to the statewide leader of NAACP. Her name is Inweezy, last name Inweezy. And asked her
from the Jeffersons?
No,
Adora
Obi Inweezy, Nweze,
okay,
African name. And I told her I wanted to talk at the convention about Black history education. In fact, at that point, I was in the middle of a 15-year stretch of going to every school board meeting and pushing them about Black history. So I wanted to bring that up. I got her on the phone one time. She found an emergency to get off the phone, and what do you call when you ghosted? She ghosted me thereafter. Would not even get on the line to talk about that. They have a thing called open floor at the national NAACP. Most of their resolutions come from statewide delegations, but this open floor time is when any individual member can get up and ask about something. So during that time, I got up, talked about Carter G. Woodson, the need for Black history education, how we were a people induced into amnesia, which made us anybody's tool. And they added Black history education to the national NAACP agenda that year. And Miss Inweezy came back to Florida bragging about, we finally got a resolution from Florida. And she wouldn't even touch it before we went. And guess what? After we came back, she still didn't touch it. Didn't do anything to support it. Move it forward.
Is it there now?
I don't know if it's on there. I don't know if it remained on their current agenda, on their agenda thereafter.
It don't look like it because
I haven't seen. I haven't.
I would say that though I haven't looked and don't care to be looking at this point, but from the rhetoric of they taking our history and the rhetoric of they taking us back, I would say that maybe it's not there because the energy and the vibe from our communities are saying that we're going backwards instead of forward.
Well, if it's there, that's just on paper. It's the action.
The action.
That counts.
Right.
And if there's no action, there's no change.
And we don't see any action.
Now, I would say that the civil rights movement kind of was lulled to sleep. You could say shot to sleep or drugged to sleep. But the civil rights movement achieved school desegregation, which Zora Neale Hurston warned us that was just going to send Black children, or Negro children, as they said then, to teachers who don't care about their success and don't believe they can succeed.
Oh, yeah, I felt that.
And she was scorned for saying that. But it turns out she was absolutely right. But the movement thought that was the great victory. That was baby step number one, just to get the two groups, Black and white, beside each other in a classroom. The big picture would have been housing desegregation, because you don't really get to know people till you live near them. Right. Just sending your kids to sit in school next to their kids does not bring down the walls.
No.
So that movement did not go as far as it could. And you said, looking for another King, another Malcolm. I want 1,000 Kings or 1,000 Malcolms. That savior complex is what did us in. Getting rid of one leader took the air out of a whole movement. We shouldn't be counting on one savior figure to encompass everything about movement.
I'm scared that you be using that word savior, because there's a lot of people believe in the savior.
Yeah, well, when our saviors are killed, they don't resurrect. So we can't count all that on one person.
Right.
That was an error.
Right.
So it was an error to emphasize civil rights over economics.
Obviously, the education, the right type of education that fueled the civil rights, simmered down. You mentioned the word that it calmed down.
Yes.
And I guess everything in the middle, I got mine, I got yours. I ain't really worried about those problems.
Well, our local chapter here of NAACP, and we're taping from Gainesville, Florida, did not bother to respond when dirty politicians in Tallahassee put out lying advertisements to push a particular political agenda in this area, to swing a vote that people here had already turned down 2 times. And I'm talking about how the county commission is elected. They used false advertisement to push that and put the NAACP's name on it, and they let it ride. They just rolled over and let it happen. So that is not leadership. That's maintaining the organization.
Could explain a little bit more about what they let roll. What law that you felt that was unjust, that they put their name on it and just kind of just let it ride, but you think it's unjust to the people?
Okay, 4 years ago, there was a vote on how the county commissioners would get elected. And this idea was put there to try to get some arch conservatives, some Republican MAGA types into the Alachua County Commission. On the first day of early voting, a giant billboard appeared near a black neighborhood saying NAACP says yes to Proposition 1. That was the exact opposite of their position. We started getting mailers to our mailboxes and handed out in front of grocery stores with face shots of local leaders, a county commissioner and a former black mayor, saying that they said yes. And that was an absolute lie. But some dirty politics in Tallahassee 4 years before that had gagged local governments. They were not allowed to do public education about ballot issues. That was done in preparation as a plan to put out political lies. And the NAACP let it go. They should have taken those people at least to the State Ethics Commission, if not to court.
Well, that's one of the examples, but like I said, I was born on the cusp after the civil rights, and by the time I became aware, I didn't learn about it till as I started aging. Mm-hmm. And I can understand my mom and dad views at that time with being careful. They wanted us to be home at night and wanted us to not go out in the woods to play and not go on camping trips like that, little stuff like that from what they say that they seen and experienced. But it brings me to my favorite book, and I'm just quoting, like PowerNomics. If you have not read this book, they need to get on ClaudeAnderson.com or PowerNomics.com and buy his series. That's just throwing that out there. It's an option because he gave us.
So the formula still works even though 2005 went by.
If it would have been implemented, if it would have been a national plan, it would have been implemented. If there would have been not a crisis. Mm-hmm. But let's just go to the fixed thing since it's economics. And the Jews got it right, as you mentioned, when they collaborated, because obviously they strong economically. And not saying that we don't. We have
so strong. They can make this country swing to the bleachers for Israel. We ought to be making this country do that for Africa.
Right. But we need to join back with the Jews then.
We need to do our own thing. a little smart.
Maybe we need to get
more
Jews. Say Jews run the music industry, and it's like they ran the music industry, but we ran the talent. So how did they run the music industry? Which something that need to be flipped. If we the talent and set the talent, if Elvis,
because they were in charge of the marketing.
If Elvis Coffee, well, we need to
the
get
marketing and distribution.
What you don't have now is Jet Magazine. Mm-hmm. I can remember that.
Mr. Johnson just died.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
And you don't have the Ebony magazine, which highlighted our culture. Mm-hmm. So wherever that got buried at, I hope it resurrect out there some way. But I thought it was part of marketing, part of
well, don't wait for Mr. Johnson to come back.
Well, we can't wait.
He was 99. He ran his time.
He ran his time. Mm-hmm. So, but one of the things that I learned from this book when it came to the leadership crisis that we're on, it said that during the civil rights, when you mentioned that earlier, that was the difference. Jews wanted education and economics. Blacks wanted civil rights and education. So most people think Jews are very smart, and there's a pocket that we get respect for, but on the grassroots level, I don't think
we get respected for entertainment and athletic prowess.
Right. So something has been dropped the ball, but now we still need education, but we need to shift back to the economics of things due to the fact that we see that it has been kind of taken aback.
We need a self-empowering education.
Right. So the leadership crisis pointed out by Dr. Claude Anderson, he just said that during the civil rights, they made a choice to give away the top priorities for working for black people, because it was blacks that was getting pretty much civilly misjust and wrongdoings. So once that passed, I believe he said that instead of focusing on the black problems, we let it become a minority problem. And he mentioned that you were using vigorous terms that concluded all. So examples of minorities is women, Hispanics, Asians, handicapped, immigrations. And now we just had Juneteenth, and I don't know how at the same breath we give Juneteenth, which everybody was scrambling because some of us didn't even hear about Juneteenth. And then in the same month, we coincide that with the Gay Pride Week. And the Gay Pride stuff actually overshadowed. And that's the problem that I've been seeing, that all the other minority groups seem to have overshadowed. And I think that's what Dr. Claude Anderson may have been referring to. If I'm wrong, you ain't got to throw stones. Dr. Claude Anderson, his cream team could answer you better than me. But I think that's the problem that we have now. So when you're saying self-empowering, give us an example of that.
Well, I mean, who gains power and wealth? Some of our black celebrities, entertainers and athletes, only a few really give back to the community. And some do very powerful things, but it's a tiny number. I remember a few decades ago when Michael Jordan was asked to endorse a viable black candidate to run against the arch segregationist Jesse Helms. His answer was, Republicans buy Nikes too. So he was defending his endorsement contract over the well-being of other black folks in his state.
Air Jordan, Air Mike?
Yeah, Michael.
D Mike?
Yeah, that Michael. So, and that's the kind of thing we see.
But here go the thing, though, and it's going back to your education. He was a public figure, and I think Jordan also responded that I've also hired more black CEOs than any other company in America at that time, when he got ridiculed for that. So he didn't think that was unfair. He was just saying that, hey, I don't do politics. It's how I take that.
Everything is political.
Everything may have political to it, but to keep his money engine going, that was his personal comfort zone. And
he was so rich already. He could have stopped making money at that point and had enough for his grandchildren to live on.
I get it. So that's the problem that we see, that the black millionaires, in addition to very successful entrepreneurs, and I'm not talking about entrepreneurs that's making 100,000 up to $1 million. I'm talking about ones that's probably getting there 10 million or more.
Well, somebody
that can make a real positive change as far as giving back, measuring something structural.
You may be hitting on a problem with capitalism itself, which is there is no concept of enough.
Right. And like I said, I'm a Michael Jordan fan, so I'm not taking up for Air Mike. I ain't taking up for him because, hey, I can sell shoes to everybody, Republicans and that. So he said, I ain't into politics, which brings you to Muhammad Ali. There's nobody that was more pro-black than Muhammad Ali, but we all know Muhammad Ali did not have the economic acumen and got stolen from him more so than anything else.
Well, his resistance to the draft cost him probably the pinnacle of his boxing career, and he came back and continued too long for his own health.
Right.
But what are people willing to sacrifice? What is worth sacrificing for?
I mentioned Muhammad Ali because outside of my mom and dad, Muhammad Ali was my hero growing up. And though we have the Michael Jordans and everybody else, he's still just that one, even though Muhammad Ali has transitioned on to the higher calling with his life. So, but you don't see that. You can't really measure one athlete that have a Muhammad Ali status today. And do you think that is because of their discomfort within their zone, and they've been conditioned that I got mine, you got to get yours?
Well, like I said, I've heard of a tiny few who really give back to the community. Even if it comes to driving a hoopty instead of a Lamborghini, they are giving back to the community. But it's a tiny, tiny number. And they are getting rich off of the celebrity that the community is pouring money into.
Right. Well, let's provide a solution. If you can gather 100 athletes, let's just say if we had the privilege to talk to Lamar Jackson and Anthony Edwards and LeBron James, and they came to you right now and say, let's pick one thing that we can see a measurable result to help those that can't jump high, that can't run fast, that won't be selected on a professional level, to see can we change the narrative for those in the grassroots to strengthen the base.
Are you saying what should they support? What should they do?
What would you recommend?
Independent schools. Number one, over anything.
Independent
schools.
Now, what does that look like?
That looks like Black educators educating Black children and giving the full, true history along with the math and science and everything else.
And the economics.
Because African people, and I keep saying Africa, in previous shows I've told you it's Alkebulan, but I use Africa because everybody understands it. The African people originated all those disciplines. We need to get back to understanding that.
Okay. So, and going to the NAACP, when you said that the Jews made the right decision, so it would be the education of the right education of an understanding of things to function in our capitalist society. Mm-hmm. And how would you address, and we ain't gonna talk about the many history of past massacres and when Black people did get on, it was always burned down and burned down.
So many Black towns were burned or drowned under reservoirs behind dams.
That's another story that we need to come back to and kind of give a brief history of each one of those, because there's a lot. Yeah. And you have to make it people aware to remind them that these things happened before. So if this resurrection did start, let's dangle that. Don't do this again.
From the end of the Civil War until the trick election of 1877, Black people soared. And old school white newspapers in the South actually said the words, these niggas are going to own us soon.
Okay. Now, you mentioned education and getting our own schools. And in previous time that we've talked, I say that let's not forget how we got HBCUs. How would you want to change that? I would ask the celebrities to stick with the education and the community schools if we can strengthen that. But I will also see a measurement to see whatever the state dollars that are giving, that I think the HBCUs should have the flexibility to have what they want in the bookstore.
Well, we found
not Barnes and Noble's making that decision.
We found out that 11 states over the last 20 plus years have shorted HBCUs to the tune of $30 billion. As far as not giving them funding that was apportioned to other schools, deliberately shorting them, taking loopholes not to fund research at HBCUs. But now the HBCUs are not perfect. I attended one for grad school, and there was some problems with self-absorbed leadership.
Right.
And they were teaching that myth of the Greco-Roman origin of civilization.
But that's what I mean by I don't know how the allocation of the funds are going to the HBCUs. Obviously, the kids need a safe, clean environment, and they need to be taken care of. But more say so by what they want to teach these students that decide not to go to a private white institute, but to go to a historical Black college where they can get this knowledge that you're saying of being recognized for how African Americans pretty much gave all the disciples that we have today, and to make sure that we're aware and to be able to prepare these students that have chose to take the extra mile, that they want to go get college educated, but giving them that experience to prepare to compete, not just to get a job, to compete, not just to get a job. Because I sent one of my children to a HBCU school too. And one of the things that she quickly recognized that, Daddy, you was right. You're going to learn how to interview, and you're going to learn some professional etiquette. But as far as knowing how to run a business, that's not. And I say, hey, she wished there was some entrepreneurship programs throughout from freshman until, because we have to understand the systems of running business, not just saying, I know how to do content creator and I get hired $40,000 to $50,000 a year to create content for Apple stock or whoever it may be. So that was an issue that she saw, but I'm still proud of it because it's a step. And the reason why I say the HBCUs is because these children that decide to attend a HBCU are already saying, I'm seeking education. I'm seeking to get better. They've already kind of take that step like, hey, I could have gone to a private white institute, but I chose to support this. So that would be my thing, is to see if the Robert Smiths of the world that gave all those monies out for all those degrees that was chosen, I would have a more of a strategic system on what we need to build communities.
Well, I had the experience of both. I went to undergrad at an Ivy League school. Then I went to an HBCU.
I didn't know you went to Ivy League, bro.
University of Michigan. And then I went to Alabama A&M for graduate school. And I wished I had gone to undergrad at an HBCU just to be able to attend without the interference of racism and discrimination in the education process.
Right.
You know, that's a time to focus strictly on intellectual growth and learning, and to have racism interfere. I remember taking an intro chemistry class at the University of Michigan, went to the instructor's office during the extra study period before the first major hourly exam. And when I walked in the room, and I was the first black kid to show up to this special study session, he quickly erased. He had an office, long, narrow office with a big blackboard. He quickly erased the board and said, "Okay, let's go on to the next topic." But before he erased that board, I realized when I saw the test 2 days later, he was giving them verbatim what was on the test till I walked in the room.
Oh, wow.
So that should not be a part of the education experience.
Right. Well, it is. It's like, it may not be, there was more direct, and I went to a college as well, but I can tell that sometimes you walk in, the higher classes you take, you might be the only one. And I used to didn't like kissing ass to get in a study group. I used to hate that, and I always look at.
Well, you form your own study groups, but this was extra office hours by the instructor.
There's no studying group if you're the only black child there, black student in the class. So those study groups it's like going in and they all know each other because they living in the same neighborhood, and you just happen to come from the neighborhood where they want to call the hood, and you out there on their platform at that time. And I used to hate to be like, they'll pick and they'll conjugate. And it's like, I feel like the teacher, I never forget, I snapped at the teacher. Hey, you don't have to pick no group for me. Well, it's just who gonna vibe with me right now.
We've been learning the work for that for generations.
Yeah. So
W.E.B. Du Bois called it the double consciousness. We have to know our community and their community in order not to be pressed down harder by their community.
Right. So the education we do agree on. And the second thing of that, if I had to say fix our problems, and whatever neighborhoods that aren't gentrified, that still exists, that our change of conduct have to happen. I was in the U.S. military before, and if I had to make a sweeping statement, I say in the military, those bases remain clean because it was government property. And soldiers cleaned them. Now, this might not be a fun statement, but when I think of what they call the hood or the ghetto, that they say that the government subsidized, I think we would just start by there and trying to increase and make sure those are kept up and giving them more things in their communities, like after school tutoring, like resources for literacy to make sure that they're reading to do a job outside of just the school system, and to help and teach those young children, parents and young parents, because it's young people that have children. It's not a man can have one to his 50s and 60s. So it's young women having babies. So at this point in time, with the men been out of the house so long, I think we didn't
because of mass incarceration.
Right, mass incarceration, and some of it is our choice as well to get involved. So that's another thing that our code of conduct, which Claude called Anderson meant that we shouldn't self-inflict ourselves with our own wounds when we already know it's a suppressive system.
But we have to look at the roots of that. We need to get involved in public policy and make sure that the services to those black neighborhoods are up to par. You look in and you walk in and say, "Oh, these neighborhoods look terrible." Well, there may be some subsidized housing, but what are the other services looking like? Are the roads kept up? Is the garbage picked up? Will the garbage truck run over the can in my neighborhood and clean up a spill in that other neighborhood. We need to look at the differences and what's there. Will the police serve and protect in that neighborhood and harass and control in my neighborhood?
Correct.
So we need to get involved. And that's been a problem of mine here in our local community. I've been trying to get our folks to get on more of these advisory committees that local governments have set up. I've been on too many. I'm spread too thin, but those are the beginning of policy. And when you sit home and wait to see what government's going to do, it's too late to turn it back. You got to be at the table at the beginning.
I guess those are the satellites because you're in a retired position. So I know most of the time.
I've been doing this for 30 years.
Most of the time,
I was working.
Most of those times, those mean to be in 12, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. Well, most people are at work, but there need to be a greater awareness of the meetings. And then they also need to be, this is that leadership crisis again. You know, if it's Urban League or the NAACP, whatever that's local chapter here, you know, I think it should be a better, you know, maybe this that leadership crisis we need that we talking about. You saying policy change, and it's because we leaving out politics.
I'm Simon. I'm not gonna let you get away with that excuse. Better than 2/3.
I don't want to.
Better than 2/3 of the civic stuff I engage in is happening late afternoon or early evening. Okay. So it's not that it's the time is impossible.
Every time I've been with you, it's always been in the middle of the day, and I'd be like, man, they don't want nobody to know what's going on if it's the 12 or 1 o'clock. Some out there driving the mule.
No, that's some of the main ruling body. The commission meetings may start in the morning and run all day, but all these committees that they take input from, those are late in the day and early evening. Okay. They are set up at times to consider working.
In Gainesville, if you had to increase the awareness, which committees would you recommend we become more involved to help us with policy change?
Plan board and city and county.
Planning board with the city and county.
Yeah. Development review with the city, because the counties is only staff. Development review with the city, the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee, both housing authorities, city and county. There's a number of, if you go on the websites of the local governments, GainesvilleFL.gov or alachuacounty.us, and look at the boards and committees, you see all the different subject areas they deal with. You don't have to have expertise or a degree. Usually the requirements are only over 18 and live in the jurisdiction. That's it. And it's a walk to get on these, and yet our people are still not bothering to get involved. These committees give advice to the commissions, and what they do is take an 85-90% unchanged. So they are making policy, even though they're called advisory. And they say if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. So we need to get involved and do some of the discussions and votes that determine public policy. And then we get good services to our community, and our children have a better place to grow and learn and not get involved in criminal activity out of desperation.
All right. And grassroots have to be more active. So that's me.
Absolutely.
And we need to get the more participation.
And that's how we get our 1,000 Martin Luther King instead of relying on one savior.
Yeah. So we have to get our participation. So what we've been covering are just a few steps to have some purposeful planning and become a more economic sufficiency. And we mentioned education. We mentioned education with the HBCUs. We mentioned
public policy.
Mentioned the public policy. And did we leave out? So that's 2 or 3 things that's simple. That public policy, we need to increase participation.
Well, as a nurse, I'm going to always come back to also maintaining our health. Don't eat that garbage food.
And as Nancy Reagan would say no to drugs.
You don't need drugs if you're thrilled with your own learning.
Thrilled with your own learning. Hey, you was playing some music before we go out. And mention the artist. Drop some bars from that artist. And please share to the artist the artist's name and the song on why you like that song.
Well, the last poets told us, blessed are those who struggle. Oppression is worse than the grave. Better to die for a noble cause than to live and die a slave. So that cut obviously is called Blessed Are Those Who Struggle by the last poets, the true fathers of rap. And it is available still. You can find it on YouTube. Learn that instead of these songs about shaking this and shaking that.
Well, you know, the hottest song they got out now is called Spin That Shit, Spin That Shit.
Okay, spin it into the ground, forget it, and learn some real messages.
Real messages, real hip hop. And once again, focus on purposeful planning and economic sufficiency. It started with knowing your history, with his favorite book, and he always have that. And I brought my favorite book with Claude Anderson, and I said I couldn't fix my money not long to fix the problems of a whole community, but I definitely started trying to just fix within my family to share that as much as I possibly can. And let me give you a definition of what power means since we talking about power. We didn't get into economics. Please just go get the books. He'll explain all that. If you feel like we good, because he said in 2005, we in 2026, and he said it's over. Now, for those that said that MAGA destroyed you, MAGA took away the DEI, MAGA taking down the statues, that maybe Claude Anderson, if you read the book, you may say he may be partially right. Or will you disagree, and say he was totally wrong? But what you won't come away from that book, in my opinion, is purposeful planning on how to become sufficient in a capitalist society, which we live at in America. And his definition of power is the ability to get things done despite resistance and opposition of others.
And to determine the conditions of your own neighborhoods.
All right.
So you have the power to do that.
We have the power to do that. And leadership starts with me, you, and we need to promote more saviors. So I'm going to be a Harris savior. You are Mr. Blunt savior. And we have to be a light, a beacon of hope as we go amongst our people. We're trying to teach this game so they can catch up. So the work is there. I love my race. I love my people now. I do love my people. We gotta.
I love my melanin.
Yeah. So you know what's the game where they had the ping pong where the ball come down the middle and you hit it, and you're trying to keep it from going down the chute.
I don't know. Ping
pong is a ping pong when they do that. Right now, we just bouncing all over right now. But every now and then, some of us fall through and hit that winning part.
That's how people end up who don't know their own true background.
Right.
You can be swung anyway.
Right.
Any direction.
Before we get out, you have an idea, and if you're local here in Gainesville, Florida, or abroad, Kali, I want you to share what you're trying to do with your book club.
I'm going to set up some consciousness raising community reading circles with this book, Africa, Mother of Western Civilization, as just the first book, because it's a basic history text. But we're going to get into so many things that we need to know, like the Isis Papers and the Iceman Inheritance and African religion and philosophy. Things we need to know to cure that artificial case of amnesia that the triangular slave trade created.
Bring the light back on.
Yes. Yeah.
Bring the light back on. So that's basically what your book club is willing to do. And if you got any comments, any books you want to recommend to add to the collection that Kali has, we would like to go ahead and touch bases with you. Like I say, for those that are in Gainesville that happen to see it, sometimes the locals always miss it and the people abroad get it before. But if any locals get it, hit us up on Common Hood TV, leave a comments, and let's see what we can do with increasing our education and affecting America to be a better place again, in which we're always striving at the end of the day.
And if you want to leave a number to call in your comments, let's talk directly.
Okay, then I'm going to let Kali call you directly.
I did it. I said it. So
he will do it. He said it. I'm going to make sure he do it. Thank you for joining us with Common Hood. This is Simon P. and the Conscious Corner man over here, Mr. Kali Blunt. We are out.